And the truth is, we're unwilling to fight with the regulators. Time to fight back. If you're in a knife fight, you better damn well bring a knife. And that's where we are, and it's about time, including with the big box retailers. It's time to fight back. I've had it with this.
Oh, poor CEO, poor big bank CEO, Jamie Dimon. He's sick of the regulations, because what? JPMorgan's really struggling with profits? Is that what's happening? Jamie Dimon, is that what's happening? I mean, what a joke. So that was on Monday. JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon went on a fiery tirade against regulations. I mean, he is an executive in a sector of this economy that has been honestly unregulated for a long time. Like, what is he complaining about? We're gonna get into some of the numbers in regard to profits in just a minute, but this is incredible. So his comments were pretty ironic for several reasons, and we're gonna get to that in just a minute. But first, let's also just talk about the American Bankers Association convention, because that's the annual event that Jamie Dimon was speaking at. And this is an organization that spends quite a bit of money during every electoral cycle, every election. Let's take a look at this chart from Open Secrets. It gives you a sense of, wow, they have quite a bit of money to spend on lobbying. Doesn't seem like an industry struggling with profits would have that kind of money to dedicate to lobbying. According to Open Secrets, the American Bankers Association has spent over $3 million on political contributions in every election cycle going all the way back to 2006. Okay, let's take a look at the next chart. They also dedicate millions of dollars to lobbying every single year. This graph shows both the amount of money spent, represented by the bars, and the number of lobbyists working for the American Bankers Association, represented by the purple line. In 2015, that's where you see the tallest bar on the graph. They spent over $12 million on lobbying alone. Banks are really struggling, so much so that they've got tens of millions of dollars to dedicate in a single year to their lobbying. Okay.
And the truth is, we're unwilling to fight with the regulators because they would just come and punish you more. So in this great country of ours, you're unwilling to speak up because they'll come after you. I've been told by people at the Fed, that because of what you have said and what you wrote about, they're coming after you. It could be supervisory. It's gross. Time to fight back. And so now you have the FSF, which is the big banks, the ABA, which is you guys, BPI, all coordinating about how we're going to attack these problems. What's fair, what's not fair. We don't want to get involved in litigation just to make a point, but I think, if you're in a knife fight, you better damn well bring a knife. And that's where we are, and it's about time, including with the big box retailers. It's time to fight back. I've had it with this, and we bank a lot of these guys, and it isn't my preferred way of dealing with problems, but we have no choice.
Now you know exactly who this crowd is made up of, which is why they're so receptive to his fiery rant against regulations. And I just want to remind you all, or inform you all if you didn't know, the 2008 economic collapse was caused by the banks. It was caused by banks doling out mortgages that they knew, the consumers or the clients that they were giving the mortgages to were unlikely to be able to pay back. They were adjustable rate mortgages. They knew that the interest rate on those mortgages would spike, thus making it incredibly difficult for Americans to be able to pay their mortgages. And you know what they did? They bundled those mortgages up and they traded them on the stock market as securities, and they bet against them to make money, predicting that those securities would take a nosedive. There was a lot of fraud involved as well. Those securities would get insanely good ratings when they were just packed with toxic mortgages, but that's what the banks did. And the response to that was abysmal. The response to that was pathetic regulation during the Obama administration. There was very little help for Americans who were victims of this predatory behavior and activity by Wall Street. A lot of Americans lost their homes and never recovered. And Jamie Dimon standing there or sitting there whining about banking regulations. Okay. So you would think that by what Dimon is saying and what he's complaining about, like homeboy's struggling, right? Like he used to be able to make a profit. He used to be able to make a buck. And now he's really struggling. Except he's not. JPMorgan Chase is doing just fine. Here's a headline from this year, January. JPMorgan just made more annual profit than any US bank ever. It's nearly $50 billion of net income in 2023 tops its 2021 record. So they keep breaking records when it comes to their revenue, their profits. So explain to me again why regulations are a problem. Why are they an issue? It's honestly mind-boggling to me. So this might help you wrap your head around all of this. So consider that the 6 biggest US banks didn't have a $100 billion year until 2018. JPMorgan came close to making half that in 2023. And we should also mention that Jamie Dimon himself is also fabulously wealthy. He's not struggling at all. Let's take a look at this. So as you can see from this graphic, he is worth $2.4 billion. That is his net worth as of today. So what is the issue here, Jamie Dimon? Like, what is the problem? And what's incredibly infuriating is how easily, because of the way our political system works and because of how easily moneyed interests can essentially fund the political campaigns of the politicians who are supposed to be representing us, well, they usually get what they want. And the New York Times recently published a piece that really has me concerned. So first, I just want to note that recently JPMorgan Chase did get into some regulatory trouble. And I'm guessing that's what is informing Jamie Dimon's rant here. So in March, the bank was slammed with a $350 million fine by the Federal Reserve. So the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, or OCC for short, was also involved in this fine, or in fining JPMorgan Chase. And so according to the New York Times, JPMorgan Chase plays a part in trillions of dollars of financial market trading around the world every day. But federal regulators said the bank's systems for sharing details of that activity with them had not been working properly for about a decade. This went on for nearly 10 years. And finally, federal regulators are like, hey dog, can you maybe comply with these regulations? You're supposed to be reporting, we're supposed to be able to oversee, all of this, financial markets trading that you guys are involved in, and we're unable to do so, you're not complying. The breaches at the bank, which occurred from around 2014 until 2023, affected regulators seeking data on financial market activity to help catch instances of misbehavior, like insider trading and market manipulation. Insider trading and market manipulation is now almost as American as apple pie. You have members of Congress literally engaging in this activity themselves. So I guess we shouldn't be so surprised when JPMorgan Chase was able to get away with this for nearly a decade. But eventually the chickens came home to roost and they had to pay a $350 million fine. JPMorgan was not retaining and sharing information about trades made by customers and businesses in connection with around 30 different trading platforms and venues, the regulators said. Now, circling back to Dimon's comments at the ABA conference, it's pretty clear that he has a strong vision for the future as it pertains to regulations. But we'll have to wait and see whether we'll be contending with a Harris or Trump administration while doing so. Now look, publicly he has avoided endorsing Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. But the New York Times recently reported that in private, Dimon has made clear that he supports Vice President Kamala Harris and would consider a role, perhaps Treasury Secretary, in her administration. He has also told his associates that the former president's 2020 election denialism remains close to a disqualifying factor. And look, Dimon isn't making his stance public because he's also fearful that if Trump ends up winning the election, Trump could retaliate against him, so he's kind of keeping his powder dry, if you will, and avoiding making any public statements, endorsing one candidate or the other in this presidential race. On the other hand, though, in 2012, Dimon feuded with Harris, then Attorney General of California, amid negotiations with a group of states over big bank foreclosure abuses. Harris would later recount in her autobiography that the pair were like dogs in a fight. He called her once and screamed that she was trying to steal from my shareholders, she wrote. And in January at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Dimon turned heads across Wall Street when he proclaimed that Trump had been kind of right about economic issues such as tax cuts. I'm sure you feel that way, Jamie. I'm sure you feel that way. Incredible. Now, at the end of the day, both candidates are running very pro-corporate campaigns, so Dimon probably won't face much resistance from whoever wins. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But considering the incentives and disincentives that are now baked into our political system, considering how much influence moneyed interests have on our politicians, the future doesn't look bright when it comes to banking regulations and protecting American consumers from predatory activity. The fact that they were able to get away with failing to comply with federal regulations, disclosure regulations, for like nearly a decade, guys, is amazing to me. So this was going on during the Trump administration. This has been going on under the Biden administration. It had to take a decade for federal regulators to finally act and say, hey, yeah, you need to comply with this regulation. We need to make sure that there isn't anything fishy going on with insider trading or with the stock market. Anyway, so according to Dimon, who insisted at the ABA conference, banking regulations actually hurt those of us with the lowest incomes, not the financial behemoths like his company. And whenever you hear that argument, you should immediately reject it because it's complete and utter BS.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.